Over the weekend, the United States, along with Britain and France, launched over 100 missiles at 3 Syrian targets. The coalition destroyed a research facility outside of Damascus, hitting it with 76 missiles, and hit 2 parts of another chemical weapons complex with the rest. This was all predicated on the notion that Bashar al-Assad, the leader of Syria, used chemical weapons against his own people, something that has happened at least twice before, according to investigations by the OPCW. But both sides do possess chemical weapons, and we don't have the evidence yet that it was either side. But Trump and our allies decided to do it anyway, and according to reports, it could have been even more robust, which is Washington code speak for more deadly. President Donald Trump deferred to his Pentagon chief's caution and tempered his preference for a more robust attack on Syria over allegations it used deadly gas on civilians, the first hints at the direction of his revamped national security team. After days of tense White House meetings, the president and his advisors agreed on one of the most restrained of the military strike options crafted by the Pentagon. The outcome was a sign of the sizable influence Defense Secretary Jim Mattis still wields in the reorganized national security team. Faced with a push from the president for a muscular response to the alleged chemical weapons attack that killed at least 43 people, Mr. Mattis presented the White House with 3 military options, according to the people familiar with the decision-making. Mr. Trump approved a hybrid plan that saw more than 100 advanced missiles fired at the 3 Syrian targets early Saturday. United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley had joined Mr. Trump in calling for a more forceful response, while Mr. Mattis warned about the risks that a more expansive strike could trigger a dangerous response from Moscow and Tehran, according to the people. What wonderful times we're in. A man nicknamed Mad Dog is the tempering and least bloodthirsty voice in the administration. And Nikki Haley, who has very coyly slid under the radar in this administration and has managed to avoid a lot of scandal, who the mainstream media treats as the shining beacon of hope in the Trump administration, was with Trump on this. More strikes, more militarism, more intervention. We should just keep that in mind because she has serious political ambitions and she could be in an even more influential position someday, even in the future at the rate this White House is going with people leaving. But there's something beyond bloodthirstiness that influences strikes like this. No, not our cozy relationship with Saudi Arabia. That's not what I'm talking about, even though that's the primary reason, in my opinion. It's the cozy relationship between defense contractors and our politicians. The joint U.S., French, and UK missile barrage on Syria this week included the battlefield debut of a stealthy new Lockheed Martin Corporation air-launched cruise missile produced as part of a $4.6 billion defense program. 19 missiles fired outside Syrian airspace by 2 B-1B bombers targeted the Barza Research and Development Center located in the greater Damascus area. Those joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, or JSSMs, joined 57 Raytheon Corporation Tomahawks that Pentagon officials also said targeted the site. The JSSMs are produced by Lockheed Martin, by the way. And what a shocker, Raytheon stock values have significantly increased since the strike. The same thing with Lockheed Martin, and we've seen this happen before. Almost exactly a year ago, Trump struck Syria with missiles, and what do you know? This is from April 2017. The Tomahawk missile used in the strike is made by Raytheon, whose stock opened 2.5% higher Friday, adding more than $1 billion to the defense contractors' market capitalization. The shares of other missile and weapons manufacturers, including Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics, each rose as much as 1%, collectively gaining nearly $5 billion in market value as soon as they began trading, even as the broader market fell. 2 of those corporations that were mentioned there are in the top 20 for the amount of money spent on lobbying in the past year. And I'll reiterate, that's an achievement for them, as some of the organizations in the top 20 are not standalone corporations, but larger associations that have money poured into them from a variety of sources. All of them have spent millions just on lobbying in 2017. Boeing and Lockheed Martin were both in the top 20 at number 10 and 15, respectively. Northrop Grumman spent almost $12 million on lobbying, General Dynamics nearly $11.5 million, and Raytheon, which made some of those missiles in the airstrike that just happened, comes in last with $5 million. There have been rumors in the past that President Trump currently holds stock in Raytheon. At least he did back in 2015, according to a Business Insider report. But in my opinion, Trump isn't smart or Machiavellian enough to know how to enrich himself based on a strike like this. I mean, the guy went bankrupt 5 times. But the defense contractors are smart enough. They're smarter than him. And that's why they spend that much money on lobbying. It's a great investment for them, and it pays off, both in stocks rising and in the government contracts that they receive. In fiscal year 2016, the Pentagon issued $304 billion in contract awards to corporations, nearly half of the department's $600 billion plus budget for that year. According to the Federal Procurement Data System's Top 100 Contractors report for 2016, the biggest beneficiaries by a country mile were Lockheed Martin, $36.2 billion, Boeing, $24.3 billion, Raytheon, $12.8 billion, General Dynamics, $12.7 billion, and Northrop Grumman, $10.7 billion. Together, these 5 firms gobbled up nearly $100 billion of your tax dollars, about 1/3 of all the Pentagon's contract awards in 2016. Well, golly gee, weren't those the same 5 contractors and corporations I mentioned earlier? The 5 horsemen of the apocalypse, I guess. But yes, these corporations aren't spending millions of dollars every year because they aren't getting returns. They are, and they are not just raking in our tax dollars, they are pushing our country further and further towards war. Evidence be damned. So they can produce more and more missiles and make more and more money. So when you hear the drumbeat for Syria, it's not just our ridiculous relationship with Saudi Arabia. It's not just posturing for Russia. It is motivated by money. That is behind some of it. And you're not a conspiracy theorist if you say something like that.